this new home now. Newness in and out. Breathing in and out.
Welcome, I'm Ken Castleton, the Trudge Therapist. If you've ever been told to be grateful, or someone said to you, you just have to be more positive and manifest your best life while you were still picking up the pieces of your current one, then this video is for you. Because when you've been through betrayal and grief, burnout, or the slow ache of identity loss, those words don't land as may be intended. And quite frankly, they shouldn't. This isn't a video about pretending to be positive. This is about remembering how to feel again. And specifically, how gratitude and manifestation, when practiced not just as a thought process, but a felt experience from the inside out, can help you rebuild your nervous system and your belief in what's possible, even if it still hurts. Let me be clear. Gratitude isn't about forcing a silver lining, and manifestation isn't about toxic positivity and wishful thinking. They're both about one thing: reconnecting. Gratitude reconnects you to this moment, the here and now, to what actually remains, what's available, beautiful and stimulating, even if it's small. Manifestation reconnects you to your future, to what could be, even if it feels far away, if not impossible. And when you combine the two, you're not bypassing pain. You're building something from within and through it. You see, gratitude trains your nervous system to become aware of variables the brain has learned to dismiss. We call them glimmers. Manifestation trains your mind and body to feel what's possible, even if you're not able to see exactly what that is. And together, they help you walk the path from surviving to becoming. Sometimes someone new, but most likely someone or the essence of someone that already exists. Someone that's always been there, but got lost in the hustle, the sacrifice, the relationships, and uncomfortable circumstances that are too much, too little, for too long. If you're watching this video, and something about having lost the connection with the glimmers of today and hope for tomorrow by the imprints left behind yesterday, I want you to know you're not broken. You're just one of us that has become stuck, trying to make sense of things that either no longer make sense or were never meant to make sense in the first place. This video is about learning, as I have in the development of the Trudge framework, to listen, to meet yourself where you need to be met, to move at your own pace of guidance, and to trust in something new, or rather someone, and that someone being you, all over again. First, let's talk about what's actually happening in the brain. I often describe the brain as having 3 checkpoints: safety, emotion, and cognition. Every moment your brain is receiving input from all 5 senses. From that input, it travels from one checkpoint to the next. But that input doesn't go straight to your thoughts. It first has to pass through the baseline safety systems, the parts of your brain responsible for balance, autonomic survival, and whether or not you're safe in the environment. That's checkpoint 1. If your brain doesn't detect an immediate threat, if there's no bear in the woods, so to speak, the input moves to checkpoint 2, emotion. This is where the brain processes pain and pleasure signals. It starts to assign value based on past experiences. And depending on how strong those signals are, in other words, how well a person, place, or thing worked to fix, manage, or control an uncomfortable situation, the input may get stuck there. This is, in fact, where addiction, compulsion, and regression back towards something you know, logically that is, isn't healthy for you, lives in the mind. If the pain is too overwhelming, or if the reward center is hijacked by trauma, addiction, or stress, your brain never makes it to checkpoint 3, cognition. You don't get access to reasoning, decision-making, processing, clarity. This is why when you feel completely overwhelmed, chased down by deadlines, family drama, betrayal, loss, financial fear, gratitude feels impossible. Manifestation feels fake. And even basic hope feels out of reach. It's not because you're broken. It's because your brain is doing its job, trying to survive the moment by any means necessary, even if it means shutting down higher level thinking to conserve energy and focus on defense and survival. Even if it means doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. We call that insanity. But biologically, it's being human. Neuroscientists call this difficulty, or sometimes inability, to reach our logical mind, transient hypofrontality. When the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, the merging of old information and new information, prioritizing, forward thinking, when it temporarily goes offline under stress. In other words, if you don't feel safe, forget your feelings. And if your feelings, your emotions are too raw, forget your thoughts. That's why we practice gratitude and manifestation as embodied experiences from a more neutral space. To recondition the nervous system, so more and more often your brain can say, I am safe, I can feel, and I can choose. Because when you feel gratitude, truly feel it, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin. These are the chemicals behind hope, reward, rest, and connection. But there's more. Gratitude also activates the ventral vagal state, the branch of your nervous system that says you're safe, you're supported, and you're free to see the big picture, see the horizon. Now, manifestation, that's not magic, but it is biology. Because when you imagine a future you want and feel what it would be like to live that life, you activate your reticular activating system, or RAS. That's the part of the brain that filters what you notice and what you don't. In other words, if you feel good things are possible, your brain starts looking for them. I often tell my clients, what you feed your brain will find. For instance, think of the car that you drive. I'm willing to bet that most of you began seeing that car all over your town or city after you started driving it. Why? Because driving is a deeply emotional experience, directly connected to our sense of independence, security, and ability to make things happen. And so, without even realizing it, your brain is noticing how you experience driving and activates the RAS to show you again and again how important that really is. That's called neuroplasticity. And it works best when the feeling, not just the thought, becomes familiar. Before we go any further, I want to invite you to pause and sit with this. Just talked about why gratitude and manifestation can feel so far out of reach when you're carrying the weight of betrayal, grief, burnout, or identity collapse, and how your brain and body are simply doing their best to keep you safe. So take a moment, breathe, notice what's stirring in you right now. If you're watching with someone, talk about it. If you're alone, jot it down or simply let yourself feel it without trying to fix it. Because the shift from surviving to becoming always begins here with awareness. So when we talk about feeling gratitude or feeling into the life you want to build, It's not about bypassing logic or ignoring the hard stuff. It's about giving your brain and body the conditions they need to regulate again, to move through the checkpoints of survival, through emotion, and ultimately into clear, conscious thinking. This is why gratitude and manifestation aren't about forcing a mindset. They're about offering your nervous system new signals, safe signals, that allow it to pass through inputs needed to create a life you can finally call your own. Because healing might begin, so to speak, with what you think, but it's practiced by what you feel. And for me, that truth changed everything. There were times in my life, post-divorce, isolated, numb, when I didn't need someone to tell me things will get better or stay positive. In fact, I was angered by these words. I remember a time I couldn't think of a single thing to be grateful for. Well, maybe one thing, my daughter. But even those thoughts of being a father and her were overshadowed by embarrassment and shame that I felt as a twice divorced father. I questioned everything about who I was and whether life was even worth trudging through anymore. I needed to feel one moment that reminded me I was still alive, that the me inside was even there in the first place. I needed to learn all over again how to notice. Things like the warmth of the sunlight on my skin, the quiet breath after a soothing shower or nestle under the cover and into bed, the sense of company I learned to keep with myself in the emptiest moments of my life, the subtle release after my body shifted into a calm state during a cold plunge experience, or the sound of the rhythm of footsteps and breathing on a walk or run just as the sun begins to crest over and break the darkness that came with night. Those weren't just wishful thoughts. They were glimmers, and they became the stepping stones back to myself. If you haven't heard of the word glimmers, they're the micro moments when something in your body softens and says, "This is good." Sometimes they sound like a soft sigh, or the sound of ah, or ooh, or Put those together and you'll get the vibrational sound of all creation throughout the universe. You see, even in chaos, your body still knows how to feel the extraordinary and express it. The problem is, even the extraordinary becomes ordinary at some point. And there we go, right back to the reticular activating system, that part of your brain that filters what you notice and what it no longer believes is important or has become ordinary. Your job isn't to create glimmers or the extraordinary. Your invitation, however, is to practice noticing them again. But let's not pretend. Let's not pretend that this is easy, in fact. If you've been betrayed, gratitude feels naive. If you've lived in burnout, manifestation feels exhausting. If you've been abandoned, or have abandoned yourself altogether, wanting something good feels scary, even dangerous. And if you're grieving, something I don't think is spoken enough about is gratitude can feel like betrayal of who or what you've lost. We call that survivor's guilt. So of course, gratitude manifestation is hard. Your nervous system has become trapped in survival mode. So why would it trust the idea of hope? But here's the truth. First of all, hope isn't a feeling. It's a cognitive process, one that requires the inputs supporting hope to pass through the safety and emotional checkpoints I mentioned earlier in this video, so it can be registered in the part of our brain capable of merging new information, new insights, and processing possibility. The feelings of choosing hope, such as relief, excitement, and even joy, come only after the mind has been given the chance to discover and process hope as an option in the first place. Practicing gratitude and manifestation isn't about faking it until you're making it, especially when it comes to possibility and joy. It's about training your system to feel safe enough to want again, to soften into what's here now, and to reach for what's possible tomorrow. This is nervous system reparenting. This is belief recovery, if not discovery altogether. And it's sacred work. You see, nature teaches us not to force the river, but to become like a vessel, to let life flow. Gratitude isn't something you chase, and it's certainly not something you contain. It's something you ebb and flow through as you practice holding space for its reveal. For even a trickle is still water. And when you're thirsty and on the brink of dehydration, even that trickle can become extraordinary. Much like when you're feeling empty, lost, or broken. Even the smallest gesture can feel like a hug you weren't expecting, the I love you you've longed for, or the visit from a friend or a family member that you've missed. And when you look to some of the greatest philosophers of our time, you'll see they didn't deny pain. They believed that suffering was part of life, and our perception of it is where our power lives. One of my favorite authors of all time is Viktor Frankl. He wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, that meaning in life is constantly shifting, like nature. That it's always changing, but never ceases to be. And suffering is part of the process of discovering the meanings we choose to adopt, the people we meet, and the good works we create. Gratitude, in a very real sense, is both a natural and philosophical practice of realizing what you still have access to, what you can still choose to adopt as a practice of remembering and sometimes discovering. What you once longed for that you have today, what your reticular activating system has subconsciously learned to disregard to the point it's normal or ordinary. This is, in some regard, why mindfulness practices begin with tuning into the breath, feeling the feet pressing into the surface below you. For the breath and our ability to stand, walk, and move about, for most of us, has become ordinary. That is, until we're sick, injured, or having to witness a loved one struggle to breathe or walk. This isn't about shaming us into being grateful, to stop taking seemingly ordinary things for granted. It's about simply suggesting to begin when life has reached a point where it seems all has been lost. Gratitude helps us return to what is now. Not what was, not what could have been, would have been, or should have been. Here, in this moment. Gratitude, for me, was about returning home from the distant places of yesterday and tomorrow. Not to deny my pain or longing, rather to honor it. Honor it with life, because life isn't over yet. I'm here, I'm now, and I am. Manifestation is rehearsing who you choose to become, even when the world doesn't see it yet, even when you can't feel it every day, even when you've had to trudge through hell to get here. I often tell my clients, We are today because of who we were yesterday. We will be tomorrow because of who we are today. Those words invite us to take into consideration both practices of gratitude for what is and manifesting what we hope to become. Healing from the harms and disappointments of yesterday is simple, but it is rarely easy. Gratitude and manifestation are two simple biological processes to help us along our paths, taking us away from yesterday, helping us be present today, and moving us toward becoming tomorrow. Let's pause here for a moment. We've been talking about why feeling our way forward matters more than thinking your way there, and why the smallest glimmers can be stepping stones back to yourself. So, before we go any further, take a breath and notice. What have you been overlooking lately that might be one of those glimmers? If you're watching with someone, share it. If you're alone, jot it down or simply sit quietly with it. Because it's in noticing these small, safe signals over and over that we reteach our nervous system it's safe to hope again. So how do we practice gratitude and manifestation when life feels uncertain, even heavy? I use the Trudge Principles, a framework I've come to live by and teach every day. These 4 internal shifts invite you to listen to your inner world, meet yourself where you are, move with purpose, and trust that you're being shaped for something deeper. Here's how they work and how you can begin practicing them right now. Number 1, I'm learning to listen. Instead of rushing past yourself, pause, check in. Ask yourself, what am I noticing right now? In my body, in my breath, in my mind. In the morning, notice your first thought, your first breath, your first sensation before touching your phone or getting up out of bed. In the midday, when tension builds, pause for 30 seconds. Scan from head to toe for areas of tightness or heaviness. And in the evening, ask yourself, what's the one thing my body or mind has been trying to tell me all day? Number 2, meet me here. Instead of pushing yourself into how you think you should feel, start with how you actually do feel. Gratitude becomes more possible when you stop resisting the moment you're in. In the morning, say, this is where I am today, and that's where I'll begin. In the midday, if you're tired, acknowledge it instead of powering through. And in the evening, if you feel restless, allow space for movement or creativity instead of forcing stillness. Number 3, move at the pace of guidance. Follow the nudge, not just the schedule. This doesn't mean throwing responsibility out the window. It means allowing small inner cues to shape your day. In the morning, choose your movement based on your energy. A stretch, walk, or breathe deeply for 2 minutes. In the midday, if your mind keeps drifting toward a certain task, place, or person, explore why, and if possible, follow that thread. And in the evening, let your wind down be guided by what feels restorative, not just routine. And number 4, trust in the outcome. Let go of the need to know exactly where every step will lead. The willingness to follow an inner pull is often where gratitude and manifestation take root. In the morning, step outside without a set agenda and notice what draws your attention. In the midday, take a small action, even if you can't yet see the full picture. And in the evening, release the day by trusting that today's small shifts are enough. When we practice these principles, we shift from chasing clarity to living with intention, from forcing results to creating meaning from within with curiosity. We've just walked through the 4 Trudge Principles, the shifts that help bring gratitude and manifestation out of theory and into your daily life. Before we move on, I want you to sit with this. Which of these 4 principles feels most alive for you right now? Not the one you think you should choose, but the one your body is quietly pulling you toward. If you're with others, take a minute to share it and why it matters to you. If you're on your own, jot it down, or simply close your eyes and notice how it feels to name it. Because the moment you recognize where you are in the trudge path, you've already taken your first step forward. Let me give you some ways to start practicing this. Even if you feel numb, even if the gratitude feels far, far away, or the future still looks blurry. These aren't checkboxes, they're invitations. Each one helps you rebuild your sense of safety, connection, and choice from the inside out. The first, and one of my favorite practices, is a morning check-in. As you begin your day, even if you're still lying in bed, pause just for a moment. Close your eyes or soften your gaze ahead and take a few cleansing breaths and ask, what does the best version of me possible in this moment, this day, or this phase look like, sound like, and feel like? Don't force the highest version of yourself. That's impossible to begin with, where every Olympic superhuman athlete would meet or break his or her personal record every single time they compete. And so, since most of us aren't super athletes, why do we hold such expectations of being the best against ourselves? Instead, tune into what feels available and aligned just for today. See what you see. What do you envision yourself doing or embodying today? Hear what you hear. What kind of voice or internal dialogue supports that version of you? And feel what you feel. Where in your body can you sense even a trace of readiness or peace? Place a hand over your chest or your abdomen. And take a breath that fills the ribs, expanding the sides and the back. And exhale slowly, twice as long. Do this to cue your system that it's safe to trust this moment. And ask yourself softly, what support do I need to move in this direction today? This practice is about giving permission. And a supportive affirmation is, I don't have to be who I was yesterday. I just have to show up as who I can be today. And additional gratitude practices include glimmer journaling. At any point in the day, write down 3 moments that gave you a subtle sigh or relief or excitement. They don't have to be profound, just real. Take a moment to not only list them, but to recall them. Recall them by the way you can see, hear, and feel the glimmers all over again. Or even better, as you notice them, pause. Take a brief moment to be intentionally aware of what you see, hear, and feel as a way to give yourself permission to be present and memorize the moment. This will make recalling the glimmers easier later. And this retrains your awareness to learn to listen to glimmers of safety and delight. You might also remember a glimmer affirmation, such as, I don't have to earn this moment. I'm allowed to receive it. Another is somatic gratitude. Place your hand over your heart. Breathe into one small thing that you're thankful for. A sensation, a memory, a gesture. Don't recall it as simply something you think about. Notice the things in your life you once hoped for that you have today. Notice the breath in your lungs, the sensation of your feet pressing upon the surface below you, or the way the sunlight touches your skin. Recall a memory, a person, a place you can truly feel appreciation for having experienced. Let yourself meet yourself there. Not in thoughts, but in a felt sense of gratitude. This is not only about giving permission, but learning to be present. You might also remember a somatic gratitude affirmation such as, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, and I thank you. Lastly, there is reframe practice. Try this journaling prompt. Even though I'm still healing from, I'm grateful I can now see. For instance, even though I'm still healing from self-abandonment, I'm grateful I can now see my worth and potential. This is about integrating pain and progress, without rushing either. In this practice, we move at the pace of guidance. You might also consider a reframe affirmation, such as, my healing doesn't require perfection. It requires permission, presence, and protection. Now let's move on to a few manifestation practices. One practice is visceral visualization. In this practice, you may close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a soft but awakening breath or two by inhaling from the bottom to the top, resting over the tip top of the inhale and into a longer, steady, soft exhale. Now picture a future moment that feels meaningful or something to help you feel fully alive. Don't just see it, hear it, and feel it as well. Maybe it's the rush of skydiving or scuba diving. Maybe it's the quiet serenity of being free from responsibility on vacation in a simple cabin in the middle of the woods, surrounded by nature. Maybe it's playing with your grandchildren. Where in your body does that possibility live? Let it expand gently without pressure. This is the moment to practice trusting in the outcome. No matter how far into the distant future it may seem, take a moment to see, hear, and feel the version of you in the future. Any way that you see it that is healthy for you. Because this isn't about marrying an outcome. It's about believing that a favorable outcome exists. You might also consider the affirmation, I'm allowed to believe in more, even before it arrives. Another manifesting practice is safe wanting. In this practice, we take time to sit quietly, name a desire. And while we cannot always expect to get what we want when we want it, it is important to practice believing in the want as a possibility. Don't just chase it. Don't try to justify it. Let it exist without condemnation, without limitation, without shame. Here we take time to honor the part of you that's learning it's safe to want again. You might also consider an affirmation such as, in this moment, I can practice wanting, even deserving, more. And lastly, there's the evening check-in. As your day ends, gently ask, What would it feel like to believe is possible for me? Pause. Let your awareness of the breath serve as a portal into your innermost awareness, including all that you hope for, all that you're meant for. Let your body answer before your mind wants to rush in. This invites your nervous system to drift toward possibility as you rest. You might also consider an affirmation such as, "Even now, I am becoming. I am meant for more." In closing, gratitude and manifestation aren't just tools. They're invitations to reconnect with the parts of your psyche that stopped you from believing and begging you to listen, meet, move, and trust. To give permission to explore, to be present with, offer protection, and discover peace by embodying both gratitude and manifestation. These practices won't erase your pain. They certainly won't undo your story. Nor should they, because everyone has a story that should never be silenced, not even by yourself. What they will do is open the door to a new path, a new way of living, to a softer breath, a more relaxed body, a steadier heart, a life and future that doesn't feel like a lie anymore. You can build a life you can finally call your own, no matter where you've been and no matter where you are along your journey. Not by forcing anything, but by feeling your way back home. One glimmer, one hope at a time. If this series has spoken to you and spoken something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment or email me at thetrudgetherapist@freedomwellness.org. What's one glimmer you noticed today? Or one belief you're slowly reclaiming? You can subscribe on YouTube at The Trudge Therapist for more tools to help you build from betrayal, grief, burnout, and identity collapse. And if you're ready for support, be sure to join our free community, the Trudge Circle, on Facebook. You'll find a link below with the free practices and connection. You'll also find me on Instagram and TikTok. And remember, you're not behind. You're rebuilding. You're not broken. You're becoming. So trudge on and be the paradox.